All right, so this is the first ever Connects TV episode, and I'm super excited to be here today. For those who don't know me, I am Maria Daniels. I'm with Reset Business Consulting, and I want to thank my co-hosts today. We have Lauren Watson, Pat Frew, and Bob Brendanson with us today to help us really kick this off in a great way, and I'm super excited. So I wanted to go ahead and just give you kind of a little preface on what we are doing with Connects TV. For those that don't know and maybe are joining us and have no idea what Connects is part of the Covington Business Council. So it is a meeting that meets every Wednesday at 9 a.m. in Covington, Kentucky. And we decided that we wanted to not only allow the members to come and be a part of an online show to talk about all kinds of business tips, tricks, and different inspirational things to be able to create more value, but also to be able to make it in such a way to where we're really able to network on a larger scale. So I want to go ahead and let my co-hosts introduce themselves. Lauren, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Hi, I'm Lauren Watson. Pathway Consulting is my company. I'm a speaker, author, coach, and a facilitator of cultural upgrades for focusing on diversity and inclusion. And I've been a member of Covington Business Council for only about a year and a half, but it's been very, very rewarding.
Thank you so much. So Bob, we'll go ahead and go to you, and you can kind of tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Hi, everybody. First of all, I want to thank Maria for putting this together. She really is the first-class podcaster and really knows what she's doing. So what a great asset that the CBC has. So I definitely appreciate Maria for jumping up and stepping up and doing this. But my name is Bob Berenson, and I'm the CEO of Idea Zone Marketing. And what we do is website development, branding, packaging. We even do some interactive kiosk work and things like that. But typically, we mainly do website design. We do a little bit of the marketing that goes along with that. And then I've made some relationships through the CBC for some additional marketing services too, through Maria's company, and which is Reset, and then Extend Marketing, which were both introduced to me from the CBC. I have been a member of the CBC for over 10 years, and it's been a great networking group for me. I'm also on the board of directors and am the secretary of the CBC.
Wow. I mean, nobody can hardly follow that except for Pat, I guess. I'm glad that I went first. That's all I'm going to say about that.
So welcome, everybody, and want to welcome all the people that are tuning in that are unfamiliar with the CBC. Let me tell you just briefly what the Covington Business Council is. We're a membership-based advocacy group whose mission is to positively impact the business environment in Covington. Access, opportunity, and growth are the three bywords we use to describe the value points that you get from being part of the CBC. Bob has been a part of the CBC longer than I have. I've been there 10 years, or maybe it is 10 and a half years. So I think Bob joined about the time I started in 2010. And we've grown quite a bit over the years, from about 130 member companies to about 400. So a lot of that has to do with Covington. Some of you may or may not know that Covington during the pandemic added 2,100 jobs as the city saw more than $85 million of investment. So I love working in Northern Kentucky and in being a part of the CBC. And as Bob said, we really thank Maria for her great support and her friendship and just her professionalism, and which you're going to see on display today if you've never been in one of her podcasts or done any of her programs with her. So, Maria, thanks so much for organizing this, and we're excited to talk about networking today.
Absolutely, and I can't say enough great things about the CBC, honestly. And I know it's really funny. People are like, "Oh, you live in Covington?" Because I have so many friends, business contacts, clients in the Covington, Northern Kentucky area. And it's funny that I do not live in Covington. I am actually about an hour from Covington, but I drive to Covington willingly because that's how much I love Covington. I feel like part of my heart is in Covington. So it's really funny that when people ask me that, because they just automatically assume it's because of CBC, honestly, that I feel like I am so ingrained into Covington, because I felt like out here where I live, when I started my business, I didn't really know what I was doing. And it wasn't until I went to Covington that really the pieces started to get put together. And I felt like I was able to really succeed in my business because of the CBC, because of, coming to Covington. So, my heart is with the CBC. I would do anything for the CBC. And I mean, obviously I drive, like I said, over an hour to Covington, and it's well worth it. So, it's one of those things that even if you're not in the Covington area, and if you had the opportunity to make it to the Covington area, definitely stop and check it out. Definitely, go talk to Pat and everyone at, the Covington Business Council. You will not be disappointed. It's been one of the best opportunities that I've had. And, I think I really wanted to talk about networking today, because I think even though you hear networking has become this coined phrase, I don't think a lot of people talk about it in depth about what does that mean? What does networking actually mean? And I think there are so many levels to networking, but really when I think of networking, I think of connection. I think of like actual connection. The people that I network with and the way that I network is in such a way that even if they don't have a business service that I need at that moment, they're always in the back of my mind. I'm always thinking about them whenever it comes to somebody else needing that business service. And I think I would like to really kind of discuss networking in depth, just for people who aren't utilizing that in their business. And I become surprised when I talk to people a lot of times that they're not networking. It's not something that they do, but if you're only doing business in your small little bubble, then you're really missing the mark, really, on being able to not only expand your business, but to really I've made lifelong friends. I mean, I've made lifelong friends through the CBC. I think that is something that people need to think about when they're thinking about planning their business and planning, all the things that go along with it. Networking needs to be a major aspect of that business. So, Lauren, since you're the newest addition into the CBC, what was it that made you want to join a networking group?
Well, a lot of networking groups are they're not at the level that Covington Business Council is. Let me put it that way. The members at Covington Business Council are highly professional, and they're also extremely approachable, which is pretty important to me, because I work on a personal level, just like you said, building relationships, and everybody's very eager to do that and to maintain those relationships. So I think that's really what attracted me. When I talked to Pat, I was a little skeptical, but once I went to a couple meetings, I was very pleased, and I'm glad I've been here for this long.
That's all. Well, Pat, I feel like maybe you should jump in on a couple of the networking, especially since that literally, and you're muted, by the way, but especially, since that is obviously your role within the CBC is, speaking to potential members, helping members out. For you, what does networking mean, especially to a business?
Yeah, and I think when Laura was talking there, one of the things that we try to be is authentic with people and, kind of greet people where they are and what they're doing and finding out how we can be a resource to them. And really in networking, and I'm sure my panelists would agree with me on this, networking starts with you helping the other person. It doesn't start with what am I going to get out of this individual? Yeah, it's how do I help you first? How do I, and a lot of times when you join, I hope part of this conversation today is not just the main takeaway is everybody should join the CBC. I think the main takeaway is how do you evaluate, joining groups that will help you to network better, different types of associations. And each association brings different things. I think one of the things that we do well is we help people connect at a very, very personal level and build trusting relationships. There are a lot of networking groups that are out there chambers, non-chambers, all types of groups that have high expectations for you. You will do this. You will deliver this number of leads to this group. You will do that. And that accountability is helpful, but sometimes it can take the human element out of it. And one of the things about the CBC where we're very fortunate is that we're in Northern Kentucky. And Northern Kentucky is really a special place in our whole region because people tend to want to help one another more, I found, in Northern Kentucky than necessarily in Ohio. And I live in Ohio too. So, I mean, I don't man the Ripley County CBC satellite office like you do, Maria. But you know, it's interesting because we're here to help one another. And that's where our Connects group on Wednesday morning starts is, you know, how can we help one another? And, you know, so we encourage one-on-one meetings beyond the larger meetings, because when you get face to face with somebody, unfortunately now we're in an environment, especially outside, where we can start getting together more one-on-one, if not even in small groups. That allows you to get to a deeper level with people and allows you to understand more where there are opportunities where you can be a resource to someone first before you ask for help.
And I love the part where you said taking out the human aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of people don't think about the role that humanizing your company plays, and not only, you know, gaining clients, which is, I mean, a business is there to make a profit. I mean, that is understood. However, if you take out the human aspect of it, the authenticity, you know, all you have is the shell of a business, and those just tend to not last very long. And so I really love that you brought that up. And I think that's a good conversation piece to kind of go with on, is that, you know, networking is networking with humans. You know, it is being authentic. It is showing up. You know, it is helping that other person. It's having conversations. It's learning. It's teaching. And I think there's so many elements to that a lot of people tend to miss if they've only tried, you know, one version of a quote unquote networking group. And I know a networking a lot of times has a negative connotation to it. And that was one of the reasons I thought that would be a good topic for today, is because I wanted to shine a positive light on it, to say networking doesn't mean, you know, always just handing out business cards, and it doesn't always mean, you know, just canned speeches. It means, you know, coming in, you know, where you're at and teaching and learning and really connecting and being there to help another person. So Bob, you've been in the networking world for at least 10 years. Were you involved in other networking groups before CBC?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I've been in numerous networking groups, and I think that the great thing about networking is that you, especially networking with the CBC, everybody's very approachable. I kind of call it my Cheers, you know, the old TV show that used to be out where everybody knows your name. You walk in and people know who you are. They'll come up and they'll talk to you, and people go out of their way to say hi to you. And again, we got to thank Pat a lot for that, because Pat does really go out of his way to help make those connections happen. But, you know, I've worked for myself in one variation or another since before many of you were even born, probably. Since 1984, I first started working for myself. So I've been members of almost every organization out there, and I still like to remain members of a lot of the organizations out there. But you only get out of it what you put into it. So I think the whole thing that I like about the CBC, and I know this isn't a commercial for the CBC, but it is a great networking group. And I know, as I mentioned on my introduction, I've met several different business partners through the CBC, and it's turned into hundreds of thousands of dollars for my businesses. So, you know, that's kind of a testimonial in itself. But I have to repeat that it's not just the CBC either. You have to be dabble in little things, because a lot of people think that they have to come up with some grand marketing plan to make their business work. And I'm not against any coming up with a marketing plan to make your business work. But I think the simpler things that you can do by getting connected into CBC Connects and now Connects TV, CBC as general, the Northern Kentucky Chamber, the Cincinnati Chamber. Be part of something and get involved, and it will give back to you many, many times over.
Absolutely. And I know we do keep mentioning the CBC, and I know, Pat, you said this isn't a commercial. I think it's because we all obviously love the CBC, but, you know, if somebody's watching and you're not near the Covington, Kentucky area, obviously that would make it a little hard to come to meetings on a regular basis, even though they do have virtual meetings. I will say that. However, you know, there are, I'm sure, lots of amazing networking groups out there. So, you know, maybe we'll take a minute just to talk about what to look for in a networking group. So, you know, Pat, I'm going to go ahead and direct this question to you first, since you are the guru of, you know, running networking groups. In my opinion, you know, we can call you the guru, we can call you king, you know, you can pick your title. But, you know, I think that, you know, when it comes to finding a networking group, if somebody is looking for one and they're not in the, you know, in the CBC area, what would be a few things that they can kind of check out, questions that they can ask to be able to find one that works for them?
Well, you know, I've used the word authentic before, Maria, and I think it's really important. You know, any type of group where you network, and we've been talking about business groups, but there are other types of groups that one could get engaged with. You know, for instance, say they're passionate about a social service cause or something like that. They could become a volunteer for a nonprofit social service agency, and they could make connections there because, you know, in any organization, there are probably a number of business leaders that are involved on boards for these different groups. And the reason I bring up something like that is whatever you are joining, you need to have a level of enthusiasm for it. Like you talked about your enthusiasm for Covington. And that's probably part of what drives you. I mean, we've been talking about how great the CBC is, which obviously I hate hearing that, you know.
Yeah,
you know, there's also an element. Covington is cool. There's so much great and unique about Covington, and you know, we have a lot of people that are working very hard to do that. A lot of them work for the city of Covington. They've helped make Covington what it is today. And, you know, it wasn't much 10 years ago. Bob could tell you he was there working in Covington. And I don't think we ever imagined that the city was going to turn out the way it's turned out. And it's still got more room for great things to happen. So that's wonderful. And those things continue to happen. But anyhow, going back to my further point, it's got to be a group where you can have authentic enthusiasm for what's happening, because if you don't enjoy the cause or you don't enjoy the people associated with the cause, it's going to show through and you're not going to seem genuine, and it's going to hurt you in terms of building relationships that could benefit your business. Not that that's the only reason to join too. I kind of look at the CBC, and you know, there are other reasons for people to join the CBC besides benefiting their business. They could be passionate about Covington. They could just want to support a group that supports businesses in Covington, or they may be located in Covington. And obviously not all the people that are tuning in are in that capacity. But I always assume that if we're not at least trying to help people from an economic standpoint to grow their business, we're selling them short. So that's always kind of been my philosophy, although I realize that there are other reasons why people could join the group. So I hope that begins to answer your question.
Absolutely. So, okay, Lauren, I'm going to direct a question to you. What is something that you wish you had known about networking when you first started networking? And that could be first started with the CBC or first started networking in general. Is there, you know, one or two things that maybe you wish you had known?
One of the surprising things to me was that I felt when I began that I didn't really have anything to offer. I didn't have a whole lot of connections, and I didn't know what else I would have to offer. But because of the attitude of, you know, what can I give? What can I offer people? It doesn't always show up as, you know, here's a connection, here's a referral. It shows up in other ways. And especially for me as a coach, I'm always wanting to help people to develop their resources, their internal resources, and deal with things. So I've always been able to, what I realized is I've always been able to offer that in any networking capacity, especially on one-on-ones. The other part is keeping track of people that I meet and keeping a CRM so that I can go back when I think of somebody. Sometimes the name doesn't come to me, so
Yeah.
it's really helpful to be able to look them up and then send it off, because I know there's a possibility there. And it's not up to me. The important thing to remember for me is that it's not up to me whether that turns out. It's a matter of momentum, of creating the possibilities. And for myself, I know that's the thing I have to do. I hear something from over here, maybe it goes over here, or a referral doesn't really turn out, but it's sometimes it's a numbers game, and frankly, and finding the right relationships, we have to connect first and find out where that can lead.
And I think that's a good point. I think a lot of times when, especially early business owners join a networking group, they almost treat it like an ATM machine. It's like, oh, I'm paying to join this marketing group or this networking group, and so I'm going to pull the money back out of it. But they don't realize that, it is very much about going in and establishing relationships. And it is, like Bob had mentioned earlier, also, it is very much what you put into it. It is very much what you put into it, you're going to get back, but not in such a way, dollar in, dollar out, dollar in, dollar out type of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Can I offer a story about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love that.
A couple years into networking, I was networking with somebody one-to-one, and the conversation shifted to referrals. And this person said, well, I get really upset when somebody doesn't send me referrals after I've given them these referrals, so-and-so. And he actually named somebody and said, I gave them 3 referrals and I haven't gotten a single one.
Yeah.
I said, well, I approach it a little differently. I see it as putting it in circulation, paying it forward, knowing that it's come back to me somewhere else. It's not up to me whether this referral pays back to me. And 3 years later, I ran into him and he said, there's the guy. And he's talking to this whole room. And he says, there's the guy. He's the one I was telling you about. And he turned to me and he said, you changed my life, because before that I was keeping score and now I'm the referral king.
Wow. And I think that's a great point, because, sometimes people can get their feelings hurt if they feel like they're the only one giving, and I think it's great to give. It's great to give, but I think if you get the wrong mindset that you're giving just to get, it takes the joy out of it. Give just to give, and I love the pay it forward mindset. And I think that's something that we all should adopt. And once you adopt that mindset, I can promise you'll be a happier person. So I love that. It's a great story. So Bob, I'm gonna go ahead and direct another question to you.
All right.
So I started thinking about this question I did not have kind of pre-planned, but it hit my head. I was wondering, do you have maybe something that you wish you hadn't done or hadn't said, when it comes to networking? So I'm kind of throwing you under the bus here, sorry, but if not, I can definitely give an example. I'll find something. I got plenty of mistakes in my past. So, is there anything that maybe you were like, oh, well, looking back, I wish I had handled that differently, just to be able to kind of what not to do? And if you can't think of anything, that's fine. I kind of, like I said, threw you under the bus here, but.
Nope, I can't think of anything.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Again,
Bob's a good boy.
I do put a lot into networking. So, and again, some people think that you're just going out at the socials to have a beer. Sometimes maybe that might bring up something there. Sometimes if you have a couple too many beers, you might say some things that you may not want to say. But I never get into that kind of a situation.
Of course not. Not Bob. No. Not Bobbert.
Never.
Never. Well, I can see that.
But no, I think anything that you do with networking is going to help you and get involved, not so much just by going to the luncheons, but get on a committee. There's so many different committees, and I found myself from getting on several committees. Again, I'm into marketing, so I'm on the marketing. Actually, I chair the marketing committee. But the people that I've met just from being on the marketing committee and the camaraderie of those kind of people, those kind of connections, I would have never made it if I wouldn't have gotten onto a committee. So again, people think it's just going to the luncheons and going to the socials. No, it's a lot more than that. It's getting on a committee, getting involved, go to plant the flyers on Madison when we do that. Just, get involved in networking, and it definitely pays off. And, I've always lived by the golden rules, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And it's the same thing with networking. You take care of people, they're going to take care of you.
Absolutely. It all goes full circle, and you can see it. And I love the planting. I love the Saturday that I've been able to come and help plant the plants. They do in Covington. The CBC is a part of beautification of Covington, and they change out the flowers and the planters. And it's actually a good time. It's work. I live on a farm, though. I'm used to getting dirty and all that kind of stuff. So I really enjoy it, but I think that's a good time. But you're right, Bob. It's more than just showing up and checking the box that you attended a meeting. It's more than just passing out your business card so you can check off that box. It's about the relationships. It's about the humanization. And honestly, when I was thinking about this show today and really what I wanted to make sure and touch on, humanization or relationships was the two things that kept coming up over and over on my mind, because those are two things that I'm super passionate about myself. Because, we all hear, the old saying, it's well known that we do business with who we know, like, and trust. And the way that we establish that know, like, and trust factor is we get to know people, and it's really hard to establish that if you're not getting out there and getting to know people. And, I will kind of add on a what not to do too, because this is something that came to my mind. I think a lot of times people also think that, especially new in business, they think they have to show up perfect at all times. And I fell into that. I fell into that hook, line, and sinker, that I had to just be this glossed over perfect version of Maria, which if you get to know me, that's not me. That's not me. It was so hard to try to just keep glossing myself over, like I'm painting myself in between. It was bad. And I was miserable trying to do it. Nobody else really liked it either. And it's really funny looking back now I was doing a terrible job at faking perfection anyway. But I also wasn't getting anywhere with it. And I've had people now that have told me, I thought I hated you. They told me that now. They were like, I thought I hated you because I wouldn't say a whole lot of things because I was afraid my crazy personality would come out, which I thought was terrible because it wasn't, professional enough. But it was my own definition that I thought I was supposed to be. I was trying to be what I thought other people wanted me to be, which in no way was who I was. In no way, nobody even told me I had to be that. I was telling myself. So, I think that's one thing that I kind of want to mention is that, part of really making those relationships is showing up as who you really are, whoever that is. And that doesn't mean perfect. Nobody really wants perfect. I know we think that people do, but they don't. They want real. They want authentic. And, that's what really establishes trust. So I do want to kind of throw that out there because that was something that was going through my mind because that was definitely a mistake that I made early on. And I see other people make it too because, you have this brand new business, it's your baby and you want it to be pretty and you want everything to look pretty all the time. But, if you're not being who you truly are, that doesn't last. So just wanted to throw that out there too.
Yeah, so, Maria, you were asking about things not to do, which I can help there. Not so much from personal experience of things I've done, but things people have done within the CBC. And one of the things you don't want to do when you join a professional business organization is start emailing members to death, especially people you don't even know. And so what I try to do. To manage my complaint calls I get from people saying, who is this person that's, sending me 5 emails a day? one of the things I try to do is I give them the list of the updated list of members. And another one of the great services that Bob provides for us is he helps to design our membership directory. So if you've seen our membership directory and said, wow, who put that together? It's Bob. So I guess I'm going this way. I don't know which direction I'm going with the box, but it's Bob. And anyhow, so what I try to do is I tell our new members, I'll say, pick 6-8 people out of this list that you want to meet, and I'll make an introduction to them. And then you can send them information if you find out that they're interested in that. That not only keeps existing members happy, but it helps you to make a good first impression with your new fellow members. And our organization is big enough now. When I started, we had very few events, and now, as I said, we do over 100 a year. But a lot of times it's very different people that come to Connects versus people that come to our luncheons versus people that come to our nonprofit lunch and learns versus people that come to our hard hat tours, socials, etc. We have a small handful of people, and Bob's probably Bob doesn't come to Connects much, but he comes to pretty much everything else. But there are some people that like Connects, but there are some people that don't like Connects. You know, that's not who they are. That's not how they build a book of business. They'd rather, you know, be in a larger setting like a luncheon or something like that, and whoever they're sitting next to strike up a conversation. So it's important to go to a lot of those types of events when you join an organization, to sample so that you get a wide representation of the membership. But yeah, that's another thing you don't want to do, is you don't want to spam mail people the day after you join. So we figured out a way to try to help people prevent making that mistake.
That's a good point, because nobody likes feeling sold to. I mean, think about it. When you receive spammy calls or spammy, I mean, I don't read it. I don't think anybody does. It's not. Yeah, that's a good point. It's not a good way to do business. And I know this is slightly off topic, slightly what you said though, but LinkedIn has become bad about that. About all in your private messages, there's nothing but spam. And you know, and I've even struck up a conversation with a couple of these people that, listen, you may have what I need 100%, but the way you're coming about it, I will never know, because this is a turnoff. And I think that's a great point to make, because, you know, you're not establishing that relationship prior to trying to offer, you know, a product or a service. And, you know, people don't think about that. You know, the exchange of money is actually very personal. You know, we are literally selling hours of our life for it. You know, we're leaving our, you know, family and friends for hours upon hours to be able to make those dollars that somebody's hopping up in my DMs and just asked me for. That's a very personal exchange that people are trying to kind of take the shortcut on. So that's great advice. Don't be spammy. If you want to meet somebody, it is a good idea to really reach out and actually truly get to know them, because that's really the only way that you're going to know what they really need anyway, is by getting to know them. That's a great point. Does Bob, do you or Lauren, either one, have anything to say on that?
I agree.
You agree? Thumbs up, right? All right. So as far as, you know, how to find a networking group in your area, Pat, are there any tips that you would have somebody? I mean, is there an online database of networking groups like in the US? Or I should know that, but I don't.
I'm not sure about that, but you know, one of the things in Greater Cincinnati, if you're in this area, and even if you're not, another good resource is your local library system.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Libraries have become, public libraries have become kind of more of a resource of information in that context. We're very fortunate in the Greater Cincinnati area that we have great library systems on both sides of the river. The Cincinnati Public Library is perceived to be one of the best library systems in the country. The Kenton County Library, where Covington is, has been rated the top library system in Kentucky, and the 6th best library system of all library systems of its size in the U.S. So,
Wow.
and I know this isn't about job search, but this is an avocation of mine. The Kenton County Library System created a position for a lady that helps to organize a support group for people in job transition that is kind of showcased around all the resources that the library holds so that you can research companies, so you can position yourself well to find out about opportunities that exist that are not on some of the major job search sites that personally is probably one of the worst ways to look for a job, I think, anyhow, although some people need to do that in their search. But library systems can be a great resource. And if you're in the greater Cincinnati area, check out the Hamilton County Public Library downtown, or come to the Kenton County branches in Covington or Erlanger. They're magnificent resources to help people to search out that kind of information.
Absolutely. And I do know they were doing different business resource classes and stuff before COVID. I don't know if they're still doing anything like that, but that's a good point to make, to reach out to your local library to see what resources they may have. And if it's something they don't have, they probably would have the information on who to contact. So that's
right. Another good resource I have right here at my side, if you're in the greater Cincinnati area, is the Cincinnati Business Courier. And they have a book of lists that lists all of the leading chambers of commerce and business interest groups. And it's part of the American City Business Journal publication chain. So if we have people watching this that are outside of the greater Cincinnati area, they can get a similar list wherever they live that has a lot of these groups. It's also a great resource in your business clientele. If you're looking for, say, construction companies to do work with, you can find the leading companies there. So the American City Business Journals, it's the Cincinnati Business Courier in Cincinnati is another great resource. So
that's amazing. Thank you so much for that. And I know I am a member of course, of the CBC, but I'm also a member of my local chamber. And I think that's another thing. I think some people think you can only pick one or, one thing that they can do. For me, I will always be a member of the CBC because I've mentioned how much I love the CBC, but I also wanted to tap into locally where I live. So I'm a member of the Brown County Chamber. So I think it's important that you look at your local chamber and try to support, there locally, but you can also kind of extend out, think about where you do business, where are your clients? Because, if you have one or two clients in a specific area, that gives you kind of a good idea that you probably could find, more, synergy to be able to create, more jobs and work in that area as well. So that's just kind of another tidbit that popped in my mind whenever you were talking, Pat, and I'll have to look into that. I think that those are some great resources. Lauren, it looked like you were trying to say something before.
Yeah, well, the question of how do you find a good networking group? There's several networking systems in the country and locally that you can check out that have several different places, different groups that you can belong to. So really the best way to know is to go to their meetings more than once and find out what people are like and how generous they are. Are they reaching out to you because you're not a member yet? Are they only talking to the other members and they're just ignoring you? There's ways to tell. You can get a feel for it, and each group is a little different, just like CBC is different than the chamber. So you need to find out what works for you based on the experience that you find.
I think a lot of people too, Maria, use a tool like Eventbrite. You can find meetings that are out there, and you don't have to worry about joining the organization before you sample it. That's one of the things that we try to encourage people. That's why Connects, before we went through the pandemic and had to go virtual, and we were actually live at Gateway Community College in Covington downtown. We allowed people to come 3 times before they had to join the CBC, because that's the only way you can be a part of Connects is if you're really part of it. I buy people's luncheons at our monthly luncheons when those were in person. So don't worry about joining. I usually allow, once I come into contact with somebody that may be interested in joining the CBC, I give them about 3 months, and we'll say, okay, come to some things. I want you to kick the tires. But usually after 3 or 4 months, they kind of drop off my radar because A, I don't want to pester them, and B, if you can't figure it out, and after coming to a couple of meetings, we've tried to create such a great environment that if you're just kind of about coming, then you're not a good candidate for us as a member, because we feel like we're creating a special enough environment that if you can't sense the love from that, you're probably never going to. So, and that's okay. Maybe we're just not a good fit, but fit is very important, and you should attend events before you sign up to join, because you make it easier and less expensive, not only for yourself, but you save the organization trouble, having to try to convince you for a whole year to come. We tend to lose people because their companies don't engage. They join and they just simply refuse to engage, or I'm sure their intent is to not do that, but that if you're not going to engage, don't join anything and watch your business collapse. So, because if you're not going to engage and put the time in, then don't tease an organization. Just move on. And we talked, and you and Larry talked. I wanted to bring this up too. You and Larry talked about, okay, you joined 2 organizations. There is a limit to how many organizations you can be a part of. And I was on a networking call outside of our Covington area today, and I was talking to some prospective members, and I wanted to know, how many other organizations are you a part of? Because if you're already a member of say 2 or 3 organizations, there's not going to be much room for one more. So you should limit, at least at first, the number of organizations you attach yourself to, because you just won't, unless you're an organization of more than one person, you're never going to be able to infiltrate the organization to get, any kind of return on investment out of it.
No, I absolutely agree. So I know we've talked about several things that go on within the CBC, and I'm sure that other networking groups and chambers and stuff have, events and stuff that go on as well. Other than attending meetings, attending events, are there some other things that you all feel can be done to make sure that you are, I guess, getting the most out of the networking experience? And this is open to whoever wants to kind of.
Yeah, I've talked enough for now. I'm going to let Laura and Bob talk for a little bit here.
Laura and Bob, do either of you have anything that you want to add on that?
What I've been taught is to really get a clear idea of what makes you special and why people would want to talk to me. And part of that is narrowing the niche, being able to say specifically this. One of the challenges that we have is convincing people in their 30-second commercial or their request is not to say anyone who does this, anyone, and that's not helping people. Being more specific and saying it's this person that I'm looking for. And when we do that, what I call it is niche till it hurts. Niche till it hurts, and then people are afraid they're going to limit the people that are going to be interested in them. But what happens in most businesses is that we narrow the niche down to this, that 50% of their business comes from outside of it, only because they sound like the professional in this. Well, if they can handle this, they can handle my issue. That's what happens. So narrowing the niche, being very specific about who you want referrals for.
Absolutely. And that's great advice. And I do think a lot of, early on business owners make that mistake of trying to be all the things to everyone. And that is a great way of going broke really quickly, because it's hard to kind of be able to maintain all of that. And like you mentioned, being able to narrow it down. It's funny how once you narrow down to a particular, 1 or 2 things, that you do end up getting outside things that come in that may still kind of fit in and you're able to do, but you're not spreading yourself so thin on trying to market this, that, and the other. So I think that's fabulous advice. Bob, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I pretty much agree with that too.
Yeah, I would like to tag on to what Larry says. This comes up a lot my avocational interests of helping people in job transition. I go back to the Jerry Maguire movie where Cuba Gooding Jr. and Tom Cruise are in the locker room. And Tom Cruise is, if you know the story, he's so, this guy is kind of unmanageable, this athlete, because he's got such a huge ego and he can never make this guy happy. So Tom Cruise was saying, you don't know what this is like, working for you. And at the end, he says, help me help you. And that's kind of what Laura's saying there, help me help you. And I tell people that in job transition, a lot of times they don't do a very good job of telling people what they're looking for or companies they're targeting or anything like that. So people will help you more if you help yourself by narrowing your focus. So the next time something happens, they've got one or two things in their mind to remember about you. It's like, oh yeah, I was just talking to somebody about this. So help me help you. That's kind of where I am.
And I think that's good. And it's okay if you don't know. So, there may be some business owners right now that are sitting there going, well, I don't know. I don't know what my niche is. I don't know who I'm looking for. I don't know what I should do. And it's okay that you don't know. And I think that kind of goes back to the idea of really establishing relationships. There's plenty of people out there that are more than willing to sit down and have a conversation with you to be able to help you kind of pinpoint those things. So, don't feel that you have to know all the things because, well, first of all, none of us know all the things. And you learn by really having those experiences or talking to people who have been or already been through those experiences and kind of walk you through those steps. So, that's another thing I wanted to kind of just add in because I know I've been there. I've been there on things that I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. And that's okay. You're not expected to know all the things. So if you don't know, find somebody that does.
It is okay, but it's not okay for very long.
No, exactly.
You need to figure it out.
Exactly.
Yep.
So find somebody and network, find somebody and create those relationships and, they can kind of help walk you through that. I mean, it's funny how you can have a conversation with somebody and it's stuff that you already know, but having that conversation, they pull it right out of you and kind of solidify the decision you are trying to make. And so, I think that is another great point to make about networking is it doesn't always have to be this big grand thing. Sometimes it could be a simple conversation to where they're helping you over a hurdle or you're helping them over a hurdle. So, I think networking can be large. It can also be very small. And I think, that's something also that's great to remember. So as far as I know, we're getting kind of low on time at this point. So I want to kind of start to kind of wrap this up just a little bit. But I do, even though this is not a CBC commercial, I do want to mention about the CBC. And if somebody is interested in finding out about the CBC, where they can do that, and you're muted. So just so you.
Sure. Our website is cbcky.com, which is short for Covington Business Council, Kentucky. And on our front page, there's a link to why join and, so they can find out information about, the types of things we do. Also, it's pretty easy to attend our events because everything is still virtual, although we anticipate that we'll be offering maybe some socials soon. We need to start planning those outdoors because in Kentucky, those restrictions have been lifted really for outdoor gatherings. So, and people can feel free to email me at pfrew@cbcky and to get more information, or if I can just be a resource to them, if, even if they're not interested in joining the CBC, if they want any more information about, what else do I need to consider when I'm planning on potentially, joining some type of business advocacy group.
Okay, amazing. And thank you so much for that. Lauren, I want you to just kind of give a little bit of information about what you do. And if somebody wanted to network with you, maybe do a one-on-one or a Zoom call or whatever you would like, where they can find you.
Sure. The area that I am most passionate about is helping people to succeed, to take down the obstacles that keep them from achieving what they have in their dreams. And sometimes to figure out what those dreams are. So Pathway Consulting, the website is pathwayconsult.com. And so I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Thank you so much. And Bobbert, I'm going to let you go ahead and go.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
before I tell you how to get a hold of me, there was one final note that I wanted to mention, and it's kind of been brought up in this conversation already, but when to be a good networker, you don't have to be a good talker. You just have to be a really good listener. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. They think they're going to have to go to a network event and they're going to have to talk great or whatever. And you really don't have to. You just have to listen to what other people are saying. And like Pat said, try to reach out, try to help other people. And I think if you do that, it's gonna work in your best interest. But to find out more about what I do, as a matter of fact, I launched a new website of my own recently. If you go to www.ideazonemarketing.com, take a look at my new website and let me know what you think. There's all kinds of forums all over the website where you can reach out to me. But take a look at that and let me know what you think about that. Good, bad, or likewise, because I'm a good listener. Again, that's ideazonemarketing.com. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. And just for the people that are watching and will be doing the replay, every fourth Friday at 3 p.m., we will be having Connects TV. And we will be choosing a different topic each time to be able to chat on, to be able to have a panelist, kind of like today. Today was a little bit different because we did just want to kind of get the show introduced, but we will be having panelists on to discuss a particular topic, and the other panel members will ask questions, and hopefully everyone watching will be able to get a lot of value from that. So that's the goal from that. So I'm super excited about this project because, like I said, my heart's with the CBC, and I really think that this will be not only great for the CBC as a whole and for the members, but it'll be a way to kind of connect them with people that they may not have ever been able to speak with if it wasn't for a live stream show like this. So I want to also thank StreamYard. StreamYard makes this possible because they've got a fabulous software system that allows us to stream tons of places all at the same time. We're showing up all over the place right now, just from a click of a button. So if you're interested in learning more about StreamYard as well, you can look that up online at streamyard.com. Pat, Lauren, Bob, thank you so much for being on. Does anybody have anything else before we end?
I don't. Thank you, Maria. It was great. I love talking about networking. An hour talking about networking could be 5 minutes for me. 5 minutes later is an hour. I'm sure you all are the same. So
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And I want to thank our viewers today. And we did have a few comments from Jeff, Jason, Angela. So thank you so much for commenting. And until next month, I think it's on the 28th, we will actually be having Lauren as our guest panelist that will be speaking on a really fabulous topic. So watch your email. I'm sure Pat and crew will be sending out some information on that sometime next month. But we look forward to that. That'll be May 28th, Friday. That's the fourth Friday of the month at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.